A show based on the facts, honesty, the man, the myth, the legend, ChristiTutionalist Joseph M. Leonard.
Everybody, a special end of February 2025 intro before we get into the normal intros to state that I've moved things around a bit. Now, normally, you know, my Wednesdays are guest drops and Saturdays monologue drops. Every once in a while, there'll be a guest on Saturday, but never a monologue on Wednesday. Well, this end of February, the last 2 weeks, there are going to be 2 guest drops a week, 7 specials total in the month of February 2025. RFK Jr. was indeed officially approved by the Senate to HHS. So I had hoped to have Joan Ifland on the show with her, the discussion with her, before he got approved. And the next shows kind of sort of all tie either mental or physical health in some way altogether. That's why I'm kind of bringing them all together, pushing them up, doing a Tuesday and Thursday, the next to last week of February. February 18th will be Joan Ifland. You can see me looking down if you're looking behind the scenes video, so I can make sure I get it right on the calendar. Jack Lafountain will be on with me on the 20th, healing not just the body, but the mind, the body, and the soul. So that relates in kind of this last of February, all health and body and mental related together. And then the following week, the last week of February, February 25th, special number 6 will be George Dubec, and we're talking about networking to a better society. That deals with our mental state, our overall mental health as a society. So I'm bringing that in earlier than it would have normally been. And after that, February 27 of 2025, our friend DPB is back with his new song about peer pressure, which of course is mental health related. So I rambled enough. Let's actually get to the intro. Take care. God bless. Welcome to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Leonard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and an occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Constitute. I'm screwing up my own show name. But the term that I invented and trademarked, I'm screwing it up. Welcome to ChristiTutionalist Politics Podcast. Joining me today, and my audience knows I can never pass on the lame pun, so here's the same. You may not know Jack, but you're going to get to meet Jack today. Welcome to the show, Jack.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Actually, I write a blog, and that's the title of it, No Jack.
Cool. Yes, that's great. When we get to the end of the show and you're giving out where people can find you, you give out the website. Is the blog site different than your main site?
No, it's on the main one.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
well,
we'll be all right.
And we'll get there eventually.
Right,
of course, your website will be in the extended show notes, in the transcript that can be found at Buzzsprout. Oh, my brain don't want to work. But what attracted me to you was the sentence that goes, I am a retired ordained minister who still teaches the scriptures. So let's go there. Oh, well, first we got to do the, cue the Who song, as I like to joke, like they use on Masked Singer too, right? Who are you? Who? Where were you born? Where were you raised? How many years did you serve in prison and for what crime?
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't lived there for a long, long time, but I was born in California. Joined the military when I was 17, and really, the military stationed me back there for a few years. But other than that, I really haven't been back there.
Where are you now?
I live just outside of Huntsville, Alabama now.
Ah, in the sticks, as some would say.
Yeah, out in the country. Yeah.
Your neck don't look red.
No.
For the benefit of the transcript, we are laughing. These are jokes. Lighten up, people, right? We got to keep a sense of humor or we'll go crazy. But indeed, you are ministering. So,
right. I kind of retired pretty much. Well, I shouldn't say from active ministry. I was a hospice chaplain, and I pastored for a few years after that, and actually got away from that, partly because of being a hospice chaplain. I decided I not only wanted to do the spiritual part, but I wanted to do the part the nurses did too. So I went to nursing school, became a registered nurse, and that kind of took over and especially until I retired. And now I still teach, Bible classes at my local church.
That's great. So you can take care of body and soul.
Yeah, that was the idea.
Yeah. That's great. That could use more of that, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think so.
That the body, the mind, the soul, we need to treat all three, the individual, all three parts, not just one particular aspect.
Right. Yes. I mean, because they all influence one another.
That's right. So when did you get started as a minister?
I got started, I was ordained in 1975. And I did that until, I started nursing school, and actually was doing some ministering while I was in nursing school. But I graduated from nursing school in 93 and pastored a few years after that.
Yeah, you anticipated the next question. When did you go to nursing school? So you already covered that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, I guess, do you get pushback at any time, or are you careful to try to get a feel for someone you're dealing with in the unhealthy realm as to whether they're open to the healing of the soul part, or have you gotten pushback from some?
I really haven't gotten any pushback from that. As I said, I started out as a hospice chaplain, and that was a big focus on the spiritual part of being sick. I worked a lot of years in the emergency room, and I don't know, maybe I got where I could pick up on people who might really be open to that. A lot of it clues from them that they might be open to, not only physical healing, but maybe a spiritual healing as well.
Yeah, a lot of people on their deathbed finally get that realization. I've been so worried about this life.
Right.
Is it too late to worry about that afterlife?
Yeah, and you kind of had to figure that out because, most of the time we weren't actually allowed to present spiritual things. So you kind of had to take the clues from person that you were taking care of. Were they open to that? And, would they accept that, you praying for them, or, things like that. And so, yeah, you kind of learned to pick up on some of those things.
Yeah. Hospice is that is a separate and apart calling than even just being a standard nurse.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah. I heard a lot of, like, how can you do that? And that's me, that's a great thing to do. I actually got put on the spot. I was my very first year as a nursing student. One of my instructors came to me and took me completely off guard. Said, "I want you to go talk to this doctor." Me? Talk to the doctor? I've just barely started nursing. So you want me to go talk to the doctor? I said, "Yeah. I have a patient down here and he wants to go home and die. And the doctor doesn't want to let him go. I want you to go talk to the patient, then I want you to talk to the doctor." And so, yeah, I did. I went down. I spoke with the gentleman for a good while, and he understood that the doctor told him, well, if you stay in the hospital, you might live 3 weeks. If you go home, you might live 3 days. And he said, I'll take the 3 days at home. And I went.
Quality of life as opposed to necessarily the quantity of life.
Right. And yeah, I mean, he understood that. I went and talked to the doc. Said, "Look, doc, he understands the choice that you're giving him, and he definitely wants the 3 days of it." And then I got pulled into another thing. The doctor said, "Okay, fine. I want you to come and help remove this port from his chest." I've never done anything like that, but okay, let's go.
Yeah, I didn't choose this hairdo for those looking on the behind the scenes video. For those listening audio only, I have a bald head. Well, I had leukemia in 2010, and I started reaching out to hospice, expecting that I wasn't going to get treatment. My sister and my ex-wife bullied me into treatment. So I'm a cancer survivor now. But yeah, and had dealt with hospice at the end of my father's life. Also, we brought them in when we knew the end was nearing with him after a third stroke put him in bed permanently.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, the last hospice patient to take care of was my own father.
And that's tough because there's that extra emotional attachment and loss of anybody that you're involved with is obviously somewhat upsetting, but indeed when it's a family member, there's that whole other host of additional emotion.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Now, of course, I like I said, I spent a lot of years working the ER, so I did get involved in that, and and not only with some of the patients that maybe had a little time, and some of them didn't have time in the ER, very little time, but not only with them, but with the nurses afterward.
Did you, as a nurse, also work at a particular hospital for a while?
Yeah, I worked at several that I was full time, and a lot of years I did what they call travel nursing. Basically, I traveled around the country doing 13-week contracts at hospitals that were short staffed, needed people. I did that for several years. The last 4 years of nursing, I actually went to work full time for the Indian Health Service at one particular hospital, and then I transferred from there to Naval Medical Service. And so I worked at a Navy hospital for the last 3 years.
Ah, okay. Now, am I confusing? You said at the top you joined which service did you join?
Yeah, actually, I was Air Force.
Okay.
I joined the Air Force when I was 17, and I was in for just over 7 years and got out.
Yeah,
but I wasn't a nurse then. People ask, "Well, you were a nurse then?" No, I wasn't. I was an aircraft mechanic, and how do you go from aircraft mechanic to nurse to minister to nurse? I don't know.
From fixing planes to fixing people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And as my friend Ed Bondarenko of Wham Radio likes to joke, he kind of wanted to join the service, but he settled on joining the Air Force.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I get
a lot less threat of being on that front line, but still serving.
Yeah, I get some of that joking from friends. I belong to the American Legion here, and every Tuesday we have a group of us. We just happen to be there on Tuesdays, and we get together and one was a combat Marine, one was combat Army during Vietnam. The other one was a Marine. He wasn't necessarily on the front lines, but he was in Vietnam. And I tell them the closest I got was the Philippines. I stayed back, and so I get a little revenge from that. But it's all good natured. They say, "Yep, we got to have everybody."
Yeah. Now, I am aware that you have 20 published books, so let's talk a little about that. Let's start with your last book, which is?
The last book that I did is called Witch Moon. It's the 7th book in a series that they all have moon in the title, which I got from people who read them. I entitled it from the start the Ed Landry series, and that's everybody's no, it's the Moon series. They all say Moon.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Joseph M. Leonard, host of ChristiTutionalist, taking a brief moment to thank myarchit.com. Together we share the Christian and family value of honoring family. myarchit.com helps you do that. Preserving family memories online also therefore can be shared online. Think of myarchit like a Noah's Ark for images, audio, video, preserving, honoring your family. Thank you again to the folks over at myarchit.com.
Did that get inspired from the teenage days of mooning people? Well, just a ridiculous, idiotic pun that I can never pass. No matter how bad the pun, I can't pass.
No, actually, it got started from my love of werewolves.
Oh, okay.
So they all kind of string out from there. Witch Moon, actually, by the time we get to Witch Moon, the protagonists in the story kind of investigate all kinds of paranormal type of things. And in the Witch Moon, they get called to Salem, Massachusetts, for a witch problem. There's a priest there was having problems with the witches in town, and he shows up and he falls dead at their doorstep, and they go to investigate and look into it. And it's kind of based on the premise that yes, innocent people died in the witch trial, but that's kind of the way it was supposed to be, so there wouldn't be any more witch trials, and the witches that live could operate freely, because nobody's going to believe after that. So
now, what was your first book in the motivation that, hey, I should write and release a book?
Well, that happened when I was in college. Actually, I got a late start. Yeah, I told stories and things before that, and played around with some writing, but nothing. And what I did write, nobody ever saw. That stayed hidden. I was actually taking a sophomore English class in college, and I was given the assignment, well, the whole class, but they were given the assignment to write a short story about the most interesting place you ever ate. Okay? So I wrote this story, and I turned it in at the end, and what I got on the paper was "See me after class."
Uh-oh.
And I thought, that's my thought. Yeah, uh-oh, what's going on here? I went to the professor's office after class, and he said, I don't think you understood the assignment. This was supposed to be a real place. And I told him, I promise you, this is a real place. It's called Paco Charlie's, and it's on the island of Okinawa. I visited there when I was in the service. And I said, this is a real place. And, the way I described it, that's the way it looks. And okay, so I got an A on the paper. And again, at the bottom of it, he wrote, your writing sounds a lot like a fellow named Gene Shepard, who wrote a book called In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. And he was an ex-serviceman as well. I had never heard of it. I thought, okay, I'm going to go buy the book, and I'm going to read the book and see what it's like. But before I did, it was around holiday time, and the movie the Christmas Story was on TV, and I watched it. And at the end, as the credits rolled, it said, "From a story by Gene Shepard, from In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash." I thought, if he thinks I might sound like that, and this has done this well, maybe I should give it a try and just put one out there and see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great idea. Yes. And today, of course, things are a lot different than the self-publishing. Anyone, it's like music too. I used to write and record music back when, but unlike my father, Ted Leonard Jr. and the Polka Kings had a record deal. They did 3 albums. I never got a record deal, but today you can self-publish your own music online, sell each tune for 99 cents, self-publish your own book. There you don't have to sell it online yourself. You can upload it to Amazon and let them worry about selling it for you, right? So yeah,
I actually did self-publish my first book. It's been republished since then by the publisher I write now. And I tell people, I said the great thing about self-publishing, because I'm not against self-publishing. It's a great thing. Like I said, get more books, more stories out there. I'm all for kind of self-publishing. And I tell them, people that, because I'm actually now a partner in the publishing company that publishes my works. So I represent people both points of view, because I deal a lot with the authors that interact with the company. And the great thing about self-publishing is you're the boss and you have total control. First thing about self-publishing is you're the boss and you have total control.
Yeah, I went through that. Well, I also make the distinction. There are firms that call themselves self-publishing that will give you a little help. And then there are firms like My Terror Strikes Coming Soon to a City Near You, released through Illumify Media. And he liked the work so much, he actually spun off and created it. Mine is the first ever book on McHenry Press. I call them assisted publishing, not quite full self-publishing. So you can get a lot of help, because like with them, I had my title, Terror Strikes, but not a subtitle, or I was thinking the subtitle might be They're Here, Soon They'll Strike. And of course, we bantered about various different things, and it landed up being similar sounding or in nature of thought, coming soon to a city near you, to lend that urgency, and that it's not just a New York problem. Terrorism can happen everywhere. And the cover also, again, I had thoughts in my mind, but I eventually acquiesced to their more book concept that incorporated elements of what I had originally in mind, because unlike Martin Luther King Jr., and we are to judge on content of character, not our appearance, if you don't have a good book cover, you're toast.
Right.
Your book is judged based on its cover, or it goes nowhere, right?
Oh, yeah. You've got to have and I've run into that with dealing with different authors, especially that your book cover has to catch people's eye, but it also has to say something about your story. Because I've had people they had very eye-catching cover, but it had nothing to do with the story. I mean, if if I pick this book up, I'm going to think that it's, so let's say it's a romance. But as soon as I start reading it, I know it's not a romance. So that you don't want to do that. You want that appealing cover, and you want it to catch the eye, but you want it to say something about what the story's about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had people say to me, why didn't you incorporate Trump on that cover in some way, shape, or form to, ride coattails, piggyback a bit? It's like, because this isn't a book about Trump.
There you go. Exactly.
There are all kinds of people who are indeed putting Trump on the cover of a book and writing a lot of crap in it, and some good stuff, and but hey, there in my mind, that's kind of cheating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely. Um, one of the reasons that after I self-published one that I redid it is I did have a small publishing company that picked it up, redesigned the cover, of course, edited it a lot better than I did, and generally made a better book out of it. And so
Yeah.
I've been pretty much been with them ever since. And like I said, now I'm actually part of the company. But
Yeah. That's why I originally approached Illumify Media and the McHenry Press that it ended up being in conjunction with was their experience and whatnot. I forgot where I was going to go with that. Oh, the editing, right? I always like to joke. I don't like grammar Nazis online, but you want one editing your book.
oh yeah, yeah, very very definitely, yeah, yeah. You want that editing. We're the publisher that I work for is they're small scale, but they are traditional, and we get people. Uh, how much you charge me to publish my book? Like, we don't charge people to publish your book. I said, really? Yeah. Our job, we do the editing, we do covers, we format it for sale on Amazon. But they said, well, how do you make money? So, well, we get a share of the royalties. So we're invested in your book. If
Right.
your book doesn't sell, we don't get any money.
Right.
We
And
want your book to sell.
that to me is a good model as opposed to indeed a lot of other firms that, hey, 10 grand, right?
Yeah.
You're actually interested in the book and the story. You're willing to put time and effort into it for potential income on the ROI on the back end rather
Right.
than the front end.
Right. Which is, I mean, that's our publishing model. We don't say that that's better than any others. I tell, like I said, self-publishers, uh, if you want that total control and you don't want some editor going over your work, by all means, self-publish. Do that. That's the right place for you to be.
Yeah. Now we mentioned cheating a bit, which makes me want to talk about AI. I've had a show on that, right? The laws, the copyrights and trademark aren't keeping up with the AI. And we already know from some stories that AI, of course, pulls its thoughts from all that exists on the internet already. So if you're using AI, you better declare it, because if AI plagiarized somebody, you didn't denote it, you're the one going to be sued for plagiarism.
Yeah, exactly right. And Amazon now, when you publish a book, whether you self-publish or the publisher does it, how we do it, they will ask you outright, is any of this AI? And our dealings with our authors is that no, you can't use AI in any writing. We don't really want you to use it because we allow them to at least suggest a cover they want. And with like, we don't want you to use it for the cover design either. Well, we're willing to design you a cover, and we'll work with you as much as we can to be like you want it, but we don't want you using AI to do it.
Right. Yep. I'm a former IT guy. I wholeheartedly agree. To me, that's a crutch. That's cheating.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I do use AI now to generate images for some of my online articles and whatnot. Here's my concept, create me an image. But again, I specifically denote the image source, Galaxy AI, based on this concept. There's the image to go along with the article. But let's pivot from what I understand back to kind of the in God we trust, everyone else pays cash. I understand, like me, you're indeed fond of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I've spent a lot of time reading on it. College courses, whenever I can find one that comes up. I people ask me, I'd say, yeah, I've read the Federalist Papers, all of them. Yeah, all of them.
and
all of them,
and the anti-federalist papers
and the anti-federalists. I especially done a lot of reading with them the last few months. Yeah, on the anti-federalists.
But yeah, I've got an article at the Liberty Beacon about today's fascia federalists versus the original intent federalists. The federalists of then would be we're nothing like the fascia federalists of today that want the primary DC government to lord over and dictate. The original Federalists advocated for a broader centralized government, but nowhere near did they dream things would get to where they are today, I dare say.
Yeah, that was pretty much a lot of the writers of the Constitution, originally were opposed to a Bill of Rights. It was the anti-federalists that pretty much promoted the Bill of Rights, because the original Federalists said, well, we don't need those because there's nowhere in the Constitution that gives the government the right to do this and do this and do that. And sort of the anti-federalist response was, well, that's not going to stop them from doing it. There's got to be some safeguard for the people. And both sides were kind of agreed that should be the state. And that's why the 10th Amendment, the state should be the protector of their local people.
Absolutely right. Because what goes on here in Michigan isn't the same as what goes on in your former state of California or your current state of Alabama. Regional things matter, and there should not. That's why there was never intended to be this top-down dictatorial control out of Washington, D.C. That more and more and more we see the erosion of our rights and indeed happening.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I said that was to be the safeguard. Like I said, people in Michigan and people in Alabama want a lot of the same things, but they want different things too. And they, by all means, that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and the laboratory of experimentation. It gets tried in a couple states. Hey, if it works there, maybe it'll work here, or maybe no, that's just not really right for our state. That's again why there's supposed to be states' rights, not edict from DC. Everyone must do this in this way.
Yeah, one of the things sort of along that line that kind of amuses me now, especially, are the nobody elected Elon signs.
Well, nobody elected all those in the deep state bureaucracy either.
Absolutely. My editor and I were talking about this one. I said, well, nobody elected the chairman of the EPA or the Federal Communications Committee. Nobody elected those people. In fact, the whole intent was to have people in control of things that weren't elected. When the original progressives, back in the days of Theodore Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, the whole idea was, well, life is now too complicated for the common people to understand. We need to put experts in charge of everything. And they need to be removed from political considerations. So we don't want them to be elected. And, that led to the whole thing we suffer with now is that we're in a government run by agencies and regulatory commissions that nobody's elected to those places.
Right. We've moved away from biblical free will community. We are to want to be our brother's keeper through charity, but the Bible also makes the distinction, I repeat over and over again, between the unable and the unwilling, to which you have no obligation. But under communist authority, the edict of one size fits all and theft of and from some to give to others who might be capable, but just unwilling.
Oh yeah, that's definitely so. I mean, and again, I get that. Well, you're a Christian, you're supposed to, in fact, we had an ad that ran here not long ago. It was some fella. He was a theologian. Had a lot of degrees and things, and he was on a commercial and said, if we see our brother in need and we shut up our bowels of mercy, how Christian are we? Kind of was his thought. And then his very next thing was write Governor Ivy, who's the governor of Alabama, write Governor Ivy and tell her to, to promote this law that basically raised taxes to give, to the poor.
Steal more to give to others.
Yeah.
That again, that's what Christian charity is supposed to be about. Indeed, taking care of from our own blood and treasure, not stealing it from our neighbors to help those truly in need, not those just, I don't have to do anything. I'm entitled to you taking care of me. No, it don't work that way.
Yeah. That's what I told people that would listen to me. I said, if the state government forces me to give money, that's not Christian charity either.
No.
I'm being forced to do it. Christian charity comes from the heart, and you, like I said, you do it because you want to, of your own free will. And if it's not free will, it's not Christian charity. It might be charity, but it's not Christian charity.
For God so loves a cheerful and willing giver, not one forced at the barrel of a gun.
Right. Yeah.
Free will, right? And people, that's why I started my show. People will pick a scripture or another, but completely distort it, like render unto Caesar, right? It doesn't mean turn over everything to the government.
Yeah. I've talked to people here recently about the writing about the duty, our duty as citizens, and Paul's writing, and I said, but what Paul was saying, if you listen to him, and it's what worked for Christianity in the days of Rome, was if you are a good citizen, you have nothing to fear from Caesar. If you're doing what you should do as a good citizen, there's not any need, really to worry. It's, God will take care of you. But if you're doing your part as a citizen of the country, and you are in part providing for the security that is offered from that, and as long as the laws don't conflict with those of God, absolutely you should obey them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the distinction. If indeed, like we're given our leaders supposedly their free will, their commitment through their oath of office to uphold law and constitution, they often don't mean it when they're giving it, and we see every day they breaking it. But again, that biblical community versus worldly commie fasci socialism, as I combine all three, because this isn't the 1930s where National Socialists, later known as fascists, were fighting Moscow-backed communists. They're all one blended group with only minor differences among them, all competing just under a different colored flag to be the dictator over you.
Right. Yeah. I told people, I talked to somebody not long ago that, they want to say, you've got fascists on the right hand, communists on the left hand. But I tell you what, both of them want the same thing. They want the state to own and control everything.
Yeah.
And you do what they say.
Well, yeah, I'm going to push back a little here. That shows the public schools and university indoctrination. Fascism is not a right-wing thing. Yeah. Anarchy, absence of all government, is the right. No one I know wants complete anarchy. We agree in small, reasonable government. Fascism is a big government thing. It's a leftist thing, as is communism, socialism, monarchy. Government, the be-all, end-all to everything. And like you said, like the experts in charge, because you're too stupid to be able to take care of yourself and do anything. You can't be allowed to spend your money. You got to give it to us to spend on your behalf type thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the economic hallmarks of both those sides, is that they want the government to program the economy. That destroys. most of the communist countries. When the government starts to run the economy, generally they run it into the ground. That's what they do.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, I like to keep my shows short enough that people can listen over a lunch hour. So let's wrap things up. I've got your website. It'll be in the extended show notes in the related links. You can find it in the transcript at Buzzsprout. But for those hearing on the audio platforms, what's your website for people to reach out to you at?
Okay, yeah, my website is jacklafountainauthor.com. Or you can find me on Facebook as author Jack Lafountain on Facebook.
And of course, no doubt there's a page at Amazon.
Yes, if you search me on Amazon, the books will come up, or at House of Honor Books is the publisher that I work for, houseofhonorbooks.com.
Got to write that one down, houseofhonor.com. All right. I didn't know that one. I'll include that in the notes too.
Yeah, those are all there. Also, if anybody that happens to be in Nashville on the 1st of March, I'm going to be there signing books at the Nashville Fairgrounds. Or if you happen to be in Pensacola on March 29th, I'm going to be speaking at Books by the Bay and signing books there too.
All right. Sounds good. You may not have known Jack before now. Now you do.
Now you do.
Oh, and the blog again? Know Jack, KNOW?
Yes.
Know Jack is available through your Jack Lafountain. I want to Frenchify and make it Lafountain. Jack Lafountain author.com. Thank you for
Jack block is there.
Yeah. Thank you for your time today, Jack.
All right. I love doing it. Thanks.
All right. Take care. God bless.
All right. You too.
Thank you for having tuned in for ChristiTutionalist Politics show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to ChristiTutionalist Politics podcast and share episodes. We need your help.
Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM is your conservative flamethrower. Weekdays, Steve Gruber starts things off at 6 a.m. Gruber gives his perspective on the issues of the day. At 9 a.m., Glenn Beck blazes the airwaves with his nationally syndicated program. From noon to 3, it's Dennis Prager. At 3 o'clock, it's Wham's own Thayrone X. On the Edge, Thayrone tells it exactly as he sees it. At 6, it's The Dana Show, your conservative alternative. At 8, don't miss Joe Pags. Weekends are filled with conservative talk as well. Fingers Malloy, Thomas LeDuc, The Abolitionists Roundtable, A Moment of Clarity with Pastor Rick, Your American Heritage with Ed Bondarenka, Dave Janda's Operation Freedom, and Dick Kupke's Trigger Talk. You can even get links to Wham podcasts from Dave, Dick, and of course Thayrone, all from their pages on our website, whamradio.com. Keep it locked on Wham Radio, 1600 AM and 92.7 FM in southeastern Michigan, and whamradio.com anywhere in the world.